And last but not least, Honorable Isaac Musumba from Uganda.
Thank you very much, Moderator. Honorable Ministers and all of you distinguished participants. I'll give a very short background to my presentation or my answering the two questions. First of all, Uganda is almost the size of Ghana. It is 241,000 square kilometers, 40% of which is actually water, fresh water. But in spite of its small size, land size, it has a population of close to 40 million now. And it's basically an agricultural country. So we have population that can no longer be provided for on the agricultural land. And this population is now moving towards urban centers, which eventually translate into town councils and municipalities and cities. After independence, Uganda was largely a well-planned place. The cities were well-planned, or the city and the municipalities were equally well-planned. But over time, there has been a deteriorating trend in the physical planning. And I believe this is a common story across many of the countries in Africa. As a consequence, we now have unplanned settlements in many places, which we now believe we must address. The first step towards addressing this has been the president. The president, 3 months ago, after his re-election, invited his cabinet and gave them 23 priority areas that he wants to address. Number 16 of those priority areas is physical planning and urban development. For the first time, Uganda is now prioritizing urban and addressing issues relating to growth centers and urban development. And we think this is a good impetus. It's a good starting point to have all the mistakes in urban settlement addressed. We have had opportunity to be assisted by the Cities Alliance to develop an urban policy, which we are now revising in light of the new direction of the president for presentation and adaptation by the cabinet to ensure that we now have an urban policy that can be exhibited as being very good. We are, as a policy now, as a policy guidance from the president, we now want to start encouraging urban settlement as opposed to considering this as a problem. Encouraging so that we can have people move to growth centers, to urban centers, and free some of the land for education, for agriculture, but also as people get more and more educated, especially after tertiary level, these young people do not want to go back to the villages. So we have them in the towns and in the urban areas, and we have to provide for them. The only problem has been that urban and growth center development has gotten there before the planners. Hence, a disorganized settlement. The policy now is to ensure that we plan before the urban growth in a particular area. The downside of this has been that we did not have, because of the absence of prioritization, resources were not moving in a timely manner, if ever, to the local governments that are responsible to have this planning done. As I speak today, we now have instructions in this budget that's forthcoming to ensure that money is made available to the local governments with respect to physical planning, so that the development finds them, or the urban settlement finds them ready to receive them, as opposed to following the settlements. Mr. Moderator, we are determined to turn these challenges into opportunities, because we believe that if people are settled in a place that is fairly well organized, then provision of services, social services, water, electricity, and so on is much easier, because they are located in a place that you can lay hands on. The only other big challenge we have now is land ownership system. In Uganda, since 1995, land is owned by the individual. The government doesn't have much land. It too has just a few pieces of land, and they are well almost done. So the land belongs to the individuals. If therefore you want to do physical planning, you want to put roads, you want to gazette areas, people will demand that they be compensated for the land where you have put a road. And this is going to be quite costly. So that too, we have been aware, and we are finding ways of addressing it. I believe that with additional and continuous interaction, we should be able to deliver a better urban setting for Uganda in the years ahead. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Ministers, frankly, I want to thank you for the discipline that I observe, and you kept within the time limit and were very clear on the direction that you are taking and the lessons that you are learning from experience.